you.
And we work from a prepared agenda and the January 5th agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Richardson, second by Commissioner Hall.
In favor? Aye. We also work from a consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be non-controversial in nature. If you have any questions about anything that's on the consent agenda, please reach out to the county manager's office. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Callum.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, that brings us to public comment. Mr. Manager or Mr. Attorney, if one of you would like to go over the rules for public comment.
Sure, Mr. Chair. The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to present any matter pertaining to county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. Remarks should be addressed directly to the Board of Commissioners and not to staff, the audience, or media. The chairperson shall open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and not speak from his or her seat. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Each citizen shall be allotted 3 minutes. Citizens will be allowed to yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing one more attendee's time. This would allow no more than 6 minutes. The total amount of time allotted for the public comment period is 30 minutes. Your time will be displayed on the monitor in front of you. The time clock will start with 3 minutes unless yielded time to 6 minutes. You will hear a beep at 1 minute to alert you to wrap up your comments. If you are to yield time or time is yielded to you, then please let the chairman know in advance. Speakers will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, or use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person or which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or her official duties. The Board of Commissioners may accept written comments and oral statements. Written statements can be delivered to the county manager's office. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. And first up tonight, we have Mr. Jim Fink. If you please approach the podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are you this evening? My name is Jim Fink. I live at 405 Wedgwood Court, Eden, North Carolina. The topic tonight I want to talk about is First Amendment. The First Amendment is not just a sentence that we memorize in school and immediately forget after the test. It's the backbone of every freedom that we enjoy. More importantly, it's the reason I'm allowed to stand here tonight and actually tell you what I think without having to whisper or check over my shoulder for somebody that might be shooting me the bird, which was also protected under the First Amendment. My First Amendment right to speak isn't about being loud or obnoxious, although it does protect that as well. It's about having the freedom to speak up when somebody or something doesn't make sense, when something isn't fair, or when someone in power really hopes nobody notices what they're doing. Free speech matters most when speech is unpopular. It's easy to support free speech when everyone agrees with you. It's a little harder when someone says something that you don't like. But the First Amendment doesn't protect comfortable opinions, it protects necessary ones. If it's only covered ideas that everybody agreed with, we wouldn't really need it now, would we? This right allows me to question authority without fear of punishment. It allows me to criticize policies, challenge decisions, questions of pay histories for, say, a register of deeds, and yes, sometimes point out the obvious. History shows us that progress doesn't come from people who stay quiet and polite at all times. It comes from people who spoke up even when it made others uncomfortable, sometimes very uncomfortable. The First Amendment also protects diversity of thought. In a free society, disagreement is not a flaw, it's one of the features. We argue, we debate, we post things online that we might later regret, and somehow the Republic still survives. Censorship may feel easier in the moment, but it always creates bigger problems in the long run, usually for the people who thought they were doing the censoring. Free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. It does mean freedom from government punishment for expressing ideas. Let me say that again. Freedom from government punishment for expressing ideas. That line is critical. The moment the government decides which opinions are acceptable, the rest of us are just waiting our turn to be told to sit down and be quiet. My voice matters, not because it's always right. It's because it exists. When people stop believing their voice matters, democracy weakens. When people speak up respectfully, responsibly, and sometimes passionately, democracy works exactly as it should. After all, it's not like I'm sitting on my roof, yelling like Tarzan or dragging 10 roofs down the neighborhood, we've all heard those, It allows people to make those ridiculous claims and look totally stupid in the process, but it still protects your First Amendment right. The First Amendment only survives if we use it. My right to speak freely isn't just about me. It's about protecting a nation, a state, a county, where ideas completely open, power is questioned, and silence is never mandatory. Gentlemen, thank you for not interrupting me this time. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fink. Next, we have Doug Isley. Mr. Isley, if you'd approach the front.
Good evening, gentlemen. Happy New Year. Doug Isley, 1790 Flat Rock Road, Reidsville, North Carolina. Gentlemen, over the last several months, there's been a lot of talk about contracts that people on this board have called into question, where they've taken people's name and drug it through the mud because this board said those contracts were illegal. It's been brought to my attention that the county recently contracted out some work here, I think on County Home Road, the old building behind or beside the school maintenance. Understand this contract was done. I pulled that contract, saw who the contractor was, looked over the contract, looked at the scope of work, looked at how much they billed the county for the project. After doing some more public records requests and talking to some county officials, I find out that there were some problems that occurred after that construction was done. Something to do with fire safety and something to do with the air conditioning system. Now it's been being told that that contract, the scope of that contract won't cover that damage that was done because of apparently the work that was done by the contractor. So my question is, who's going to pay for the air conditioning system? Who's going to pay for it if it's a fire system? Talked to the county manager. The county manager told me that there was a contract in place. Again, I let him know that I had a copy of the contract. I saw the scope of the work. I saw who bid on the contract. The lower bid got it. The process was followed. But the problem here is I'm being told that contract was not up to snuff. It was not scrutinized to cover this. So now the county is going to bear the burden of this cost because somebody didn't review the contract properly. I'd like for the county manager or some of the board members, if they could, to tell me, I'm not sure, Mr. Metzler, if you found out how much it's going to cost to do those repairs that were messed up, because I've been told that it was functioning properly before that contract was done, when this remodel was done. I think they turned it into storage or something to that effect. So I'm just asking, how much is it going to cost the taxpayers? And the fact that some folks on the board seem to gripe about everybody else and their contracts, but they're not even scrutinizing our own contracts that are being put out there for people in the community to do and work on. Again, Happy New Year. I pray that we can have some unity in this county and some unity on this board. And I'm praying for all of you, sincerely. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Isley. That is all that we had signed up for public comment. And that next thing on the agenda for tonight, on my copy, looks like a bit of a typo if you're following along out there, but it says presentation, then it goes down to number 8. I believe this is all supposed to be one piece. Mr. Bob Cleveland for Age Program Planner, PTRC. If you'd please come up front.
Thank you, and good evening, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We thank you, and we appreciate the time that we have to speak with you today. And we wanted to talk about aging in the county, and we have some information, statistics for you. You should receive those in your packet, and we'll go through the online presentation today so that everybody has a chance to see it who maybe couldn't attend in person today. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, let's go to the next slide here. You'll see some of the statistics about aging in the county. And you look at the numbers, and this is your total population here. So you're seeing from 2022, the percentages in the county, and we have quite a big, large number. If you're looking at 60 plus, it's one of the largest populations in the county. And it's a population, as you all probably know, it's been growing over the years. And actually, it's women 85 plus that is the fastest growing percentage of our population, even though not in total number, but it's still a rapidly growing population. So the next thing we're going to look at is by county, you're seeing that the percentage of older adults and where they live, and you're actually seeing out in Madison-Mayodan, it's part of the largest growing or the fastest growing population of older adults in the county. And I think you also are aware that it's actually probably the lowest or economic area in terms of population, in terms of resources. And so I know that we have some of our planning committee members here today are concerned about that area and what may be happening or what services may be lost because of either declining population or people, less visiting some of the community sites, meal sites, et cetera. So last year, actually, according to Kinship Care, 277 people, 60 plus, moved into the county that year. And then 582 people, 60 plus, in Rockingham County are grandparents raising grandchildren. I mean, that's a pretty sobering statistic. You're talking over 500 people that are caregiving for not their children, but their grandchildren. For some reason, the parents may be out of the picture, but they're struggling because they have legal issues that maybe they can't address because they don't have legal custody of the children. So it's one of the things that some of the family caregiver services support. So at this point, I would like our planning committee members, if you would, to stand. These are members that you, the county commissioners, have appointed to make decisions about services in the county and where the dollars go. So we appreciate very much our members who vote on these programs, determine where the dollars go. Linda Gowerly is our chair, and so she very aptly leads this committee. So thank you. But you do see on your handouts who is on the committee. And the roles that this committee does is, of course, they review and analyze the data. So we look at data. How is the spending going? Where are the trends? What kinds of things are we seeing in the county? And where do dollars need to flow to follow those things? Educating the citizens. So it's not that we just come to a meeting and we leave. We ask the members to share this information, to talk to other people in their circle, to let them know about aging in the county. What services do they think they need? What do they want? What are they hearing? We also ask them to identify service gaps. What are we not doing in the county that we possibly could? If maybe this service is declining, maybe there's a new service to raise up. For example, one of the things that the area agency does is every 4 years we have to survey the community. We receive 2,000 responses to our survey across all 12 counties. And for the first time in this last survey, we saw housing and home improvement become the #1 need across 10 of our 12 counties, including Rockingham County, where typically home delivered meals has always been #1. So we are seeing changes in some of the, not just the demographics of the population, but also some of the needs of the population. Discuss issues that affect quality of life for older adults, and then maintaining that planning process to look at needs, changes, et cetera. So also now you see that the funding for aging services, this is the money that came into the county for FY26, the year that we're currently in. Unfortunately, we did take about a $9,000 cut to the county based on some of the funding cuts. And again, we're talking about cuts at a time when the older adult population continues to grow. So you see from the block grant, we had $730,000, requires a 10% match according to state rules. The family caregiver program, and that has no match required, the state pays that. Legal services, and then you see senior center general purpose, it's a separate state fund, but our senior centers are required a 25% match on those dollars. So the total that came in was $795,000, just shy of $800,000. But compare that to the amount of money spent in the county, now this is for 2024, but spent $26 million on Medicaid nursing homes only. Huge disparity. And actually, Janice and I had the conversation with Senator Berger earlier in March of last year, and we were telling him about this, say, hey, we need to do something to kind of fix some of these inequities. And he said, yes, we know there are people in nursing homes that don't need to be there. The problem is we don't have services to bring them out to. You know, we either don't have the housing, or we don't have enough in-home aides, or we don't maybe have the transportation. So again, we need to be able to have services available to people so they don't have to be in long-term care where it's much more costly, and it costs all of us in terms of Medicaid and our taxes and what we're paying in. So we need to do better. And it's not just your job, trust me, we know that. But you can help us be a voice. So current block grant services in the county, we're looking at home delivered meals. There's 192 clients that ADTS is currently serving, but yeah, we see there's 173 people waiting for services. And what do you think happens to those people who are waiting? They can't wait forever, right? Some of those people get sick, they get in the hospital, now there's more cost there. Some of the people maybe go to live with others, some go into the nursing home. Again, so when we have these big waiting lists, and you see the average wait time is 18 to 24 months to be able to get food. That shouldn't happen to anybody. Congregate meals are the meals where people congregate and meet together, reduce that social isolation. There's about a 3-month wait list on that. In-home aid services, take a look at that waiting list, 6 years to get somebody on waiting list. And I came to this committee a couple years ago and told the committee that the people who were waiting for in-home aid level 3, 91% of them passed away. Some of you may remember that statistic. So we can't have people waiting for services forever and ever, ever. It's just not going to work. There's no waiting list for in-home aid level 3 right now. Of course, right now there's no funding in that level. This was the committee decided. There wasn't a huge need, but again, there's nobody waiting at this point. Adult daycare doesn't have a wait list. And then our senior centers, where you see served 1,600 clients over the 3 senior centers in the county. Again, no wait list, but altogether we're serving over close to 2,000 clients in the county through the various and sundry services. So at this point, I'm going to allow Pam to come up. Pam is one of our planning committee members, and she has also been a beneficiary, or her family has been, of some of the services, maybe not so much in this county, but again, across other counties. And I know Janice also, her family was down, what county, Janice? Scotland County, also received some family caregiver and other services. Okay.
I'm one of the fortunate ones. My name is Pam Drews, and I live north of Stoneville. And I know some of you, I taught some of maybe your siblings, but anyway, I'm just here to tell you that I was fortunate, and my family was fortunate, to be able to take part in the family caregiver support. And I want you to know that both of my parents came to live with me. And at the time when they came to live with me, they could do a lot of things. In fact, my dad, who's 96, was out pulling weeds. And I'm going, Dad, what are you, sorry about that. You're good. I said, what are you doing? You know, so when they first came to live with me, they could do a lot of things. But shortly after they came, they started declining really fast. And I couldn't do a lot of the things I didn't know how to do a lot of the things. And so I was lucky enough that the Family Caregiver Service was able to give my mom some help. And she was put on a list where we got services for X amount of months. Unfortunately, my mom died with a month to go left on her time that she was able to have. So we were hoping my dad, who was a people person, and he enjoyed the people coming to serve Mom more than Mom did, because actually the first time they came to serve Mom, she fired them. She said, and the little girl came out, she said, your mom just fired me. I said, don't listen to Mom, don't listen to Mom. And, but my dad loved them coming up because he was able to talk to them. So when Mom died, we were hoping that Dad could just slip right in and take over her last month. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. And so he was put on a waiting list. And unfortunately, he passed before he was able to get services. But what I want to tell you is that this service not only helped my parents, they taught me how to take care of my parents when they weren't there. They showed me how I was to feed Mom, how I was to bathe Mom. those things. And I'm so grateful for what they did. But the other thing they allowed was for me at a time to go out and sit in my swing in the backyard. I cannot tell you how much that meant to me to be able to just listen to those birds and to get away from the situation. It was just incredible. And without that support, I don't know what we would have done. But I just want you to know that I am here to tell you what a wonderful opportunity we were able to have with this agency.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Pam. So the experience that Pam had, there's a lot of people that have this experience, right? They're able to get the help they need. It's such a relief. And as Pam said, this respite care, which is one of the family caregiver services, allowed her just to relax, just to get that break so she could jump back in and do that caregiving. I want to talk a little bit about our senior centers. You know, senior centers sometimes don't get all the recognition that they deserve. Because the senior centers, I think a lot of people have the perception that, oh, that's where people go to play bingo, right? If you look on your screen, and actually you should have a separate handout. That's not on the screen today, but our senior centers cover 61 different programs in 6 different categories. And you see those there: the exercise, the social, the health, education, arts, services. And again, with our seniors, we have 2 centers of excellence. We have another that's a senior center that are certified. And it's really a multi-purpose hub of activity because every senior center is required to provide information and assistance or referral. So when you need a question answered, where do you call? You call the senior center because they know about what's available in the community. And that's whether that's formal programs like Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, all those sorts of things, but it's also those informal programs. Like they're gonna maybe know about services that the local plumbers union says, we'll do 5 programs a year for older adults. They're gonna know those local things. But again, there's so many other services that they offer that are helping people get access with their Medicare information, how to choose the right plan. So they don't get scammed by those ads on TV that say, oh, just call here and we'll tell you all the wonderful stuff you can get, right? But again, it's where people engage in living. And one thing we learned during the pandemic is that social isolation is very damaging to people's health. You may have heard the statistic that the effect of being socially isolated is the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's pretty damaging. And so again, these senior centers are places where people can go, they can gather, most places they can have a meal together. They engage not only in the health, the exercise, but the health and wellness benefits that all the senior centers have to offer. The other thing that was on there is that during the pandemic, our senior centers switched to offering virtual programming. And some of them saw their numbers climb because people maybe who couldn't visit the senior center could now visit and participate in programs virtually. And most of our senior centers are still offering those virtual programs to allow people to do that. So again, that was one of the things that, if anything, that came out of the pandemic is an opportunity for new service and looking at things in a different way. So to recap, older adults are the fastest growing percentage of our older adult population. The waiting lists, there's just not enough funding. And we know, again, not all the purse strings sit here in the county. So our call to action, what we're asking you to do is to help us. You know you have access, we know you have access to state and federal legislators, right? You're talking to them, they're listening to your needs and stuff. We need your support to ask for increased funding for the block grant and for senior center funding. I'll just mention for the senior center general purpose, that's a separate fund that sits at the state. That pot of money has not changed in over 20 years. It's been $1.2 million, and that is split across all the senior centers in the state. So if you're a center of excellence, you get 3 shares of that money, but that is still just below $11,000 for the year. That doesn't go very far, we all know that. So again, we know that $1 million in the state budget is a drop in the bucket. So let's find some other drops that we can add and get our senior centers some more funding so they can reach out and do more services and provide more services for older adults, for the people that want to come and participate. The block grant, of course, you saw the waiting list numbers. You saw how important that in-home aid is to someone. You saw the importance of meals, et cetera. So we're asking for your help in talking to those state legislators to say, hey, how can we find some money for our older adults? We know that the kids get a lot of attention, but right now, the older adult population is way more than the kids. So again, that's happening in almost every single county in North Carolina. And again, if there is some wiggle room in your budgets, find some money that we can shift toward aging services, take some of these people off the waiting list for home delivered meals, et cetera. So we thank you for your time. We appreciate your listening. Do you have any questions for us, for me?
Gentlemen, anything from Mr. Cleveland?
Yes, I do.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On one of the presentations you had, it was over 500 adults, or over 500 grandparents taking care of their grandchildren. Now, is there anything available if they're struggling or they ask for help?
Yes, certainly not to serve all of them, but
Right.
there is part of the family caregiver support program is for, like 10% of that is carved out for grandparents raising grandchildren. I shouldn't say carved out, but it's available to grandparents raising grandchildren. So some of that goes for legal services, as I mentioned. Maybe if they don't have custody to help with that. Some of it's for respite care so that they can send their kids off to camp and grandma and grandpa can get a little bit of a break during the summer.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, of course, I'm very familiar with everything you're talking about there, Bob, and we appreciate your service to the county as well as the PTRC. But a couple questions. Some of us have helped with Meals on Wheels. If by magic we were able to fund all of those non-funded slots, do you have enough personnel to deliver those meals?
Great question. And Kathy, if you would step forward, if I may. Kathy Powers with ADTS runs that program, and that is a great question, Mark.
Short answer is no. We rely very heavily on our volunteer workforce, and we know that our volunteers are aging just like our workforce is aging. During COVID, we lost a lot of volunteers. We're still managing, but we need more just to sustain the current numbers that we're serving. If we were to get a windfall of money and take everyone off the waiting list tomorrow, we would have to add about 10 routes around the county, and that would constitute probably another 120 volunteers.
So is it worthwhile to ask people to volunteer now?
Yes, sir.
Contact you at Aging and Disability Services?
They can call us and they can volunteer as often or as infrequently as they would like. We work around their schedules. Some of our routes are longer than others, so we actually have some routes that are less than an hour. So if you want to volunteer once a month, once a quarter, once a year, we can accommodate anything that you're able to give.
Yeah, and I'd point out to my colleagues, I've done this some in the past, and it's a learning experience. And I frankly felt that most of the clients that I dealt with in delivering the meals were more interested in conversation than they were the meal. So,
Goes back to that social isolation I was talking about.
well, I appreciate the update, and I'm going to be asking our county manager to include Kathy's recommendations as we go through the budget process. If I'm not mistaken, budget process starts this month.
Yes, it does. And if Kathy could just put that in her budget request, the board will consider that.
Thank you. And I will add one thing to that is, again, during the pandemic, service delivery changed, right? We couldn't do home delivered meals, not home delivered meals, but like even the congregate sites, people could pick up frozen boxes. And the Aging Network learned during that time. So there's some talk about how to change delivery, but I know that even like for home delivered meals, there are some routes that are frozen, meaning that you get a box of 5 frozen meals at one time. You're not getting an every single day delivery. I know some places around the country are delivering those meals by drones. Some are delivering them through UPS. So again, even if we don't have volunteers, there may be some other ways that we can make sure that people get fed.
Commissioner Hall.
Yep, Mr. Cleveland, thank you for being here. Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned earlier that there are 2 centers of excellence.
Correct.
In the county. Are any of those directors here tonight?
Carla is here. Carla, if you would stand up.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thank you for all the work you guys do. We appreciate all the folks here tonight supporting you.
Denise Hicks is also from Madison Maiden Rec Center.
Good. Very good. Thank you for the work you guys do.
Absolutely. All right, thank you so much, appreciate it.
This brings us to number 9, new business. Mr. Manager, do we have any new business this evening?
No, sir.
That'll take us to number 10, commissioner comments, and we will start with Commissioner Callum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to congratulate the Reidsville football team in their championship. I think they did an outstanding job, and if any of you got to see that, you would see that as well. Also, want to reach out and, new year, don't be afraid to set goals. Don't be afraid to go after them and achieve them. This could be a struggle. It could be hard. But, with every good thing comes dedication and the ability to look for it. Also, this time of the year, it gets cold. Look to make sure you take care of your pets. Make sure you look to have them a place to go if need be. If you're cold outside, and I'm outside a lot, and I stay cold, I know they are as well. So that is all I have for tonight, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Callum. Commissioner Richardson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to take a little point of privilege, if I could, several things to announce. I was fortunate to represent the county today at an announcement over at Machine Specialties, where a number of our apprentices from RCC and the school system are employed. And the governor was there and made the announcement that North Carolina has been named the national number 1 state in workforce development. And I think that speaks very highly of of your community college and our school system and the Rocketop program that has provided a lot of those names. Kind of as a matter of, I also want to recognize, I usually recognize an employee, but I'm going to recognize several employees that were the center of our social gathering to give us a Christmas welcome there, and that social program was put on with the help of Lenore Edmonds and Roxanne Ortega and Stacy Moore and Nicholas Duncan. Those were the entertainment. Jennifer, Susan, Donna, Cindy, Amanda, all of you that you helped, that added a lot to the spirit and a lot to the recognition of our employees. Now to the matter of some historical data that you might think fairly boring and useless. But when I was growing up, one of my daily chores, actually twice a day, it was my job to milk the cow. We had usually just one cow. And of course, it was kept in the feed barn most of the time. And a lot of times it was dark and uncomfortable and cold when it was milking. I thought we had a really good barn because we had 2 naked 100-watt bulbs hanging in there, so I had a little light in the dark. But anyhow, I would milk the cow, and I would take the milk to my mother in an open bucket. And as most feed barns are, they tend to have things like flies and hay and dust and feed and stuff. So the very first thing my mother did when I got to the house is she would take that milk bucket, and she had a particular strainer that had a grid in the bottom of it, and she would strain the milk going into the jars for storage. But it wasn't good enough for her. She would also strain it through cheesecloth. Now, some of you here, or most of you probably know what cheesecloth is. That is a pretty good strainer. But after she did that, and before she put the lid on the jar, she would hold it up to the light and examine it to see if she got all the bad stuff out. And before she stored the milk for our consumption later on, she did all she could to examine it and make sure it was only milk in the jar. And you might think that this is not very useful information for the public in general. But I'd like to point out to you, we're coming up on a campaign and election 2 months. And it's also already been proven to be a little bit acidic, vitriolic. And for a couple months, I would suggest to you that my mother's example for treating milk is something that we could do through information, is look at it closely, filter it, and I would encourage you to examine it and make a good assessment before you conduct your civic duty of voting. And in all that process, no matter who you might choose to vote for or what issue you might choose to make important to yourself and your colleagues, you don't have to be mean to people. It is beneath the character of Rockingham County to be abusive to each other. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. Commissioner Berger?
Thank you. And Commissioner Kellum touched on one thing. Certainly congratulations to Reidsville High School and another win for them. And of course, they've got a pretty good basketball program as well. I know they had one setback first time in a couple of years, but I look forward to what they may achieve in the future. At our last meeting, I brought up, I know we had a mention tonight of asking for more money. And of course, we've got a lot of groups that ask for money, and we try to do everything we can for each of those groups. But at our last meeting, I brought up something with the manager and asked about checking on a bank account that the county had discovered that was off the books. And we had asked for some records. And I just want to confirm, as far as what the sheriff has handed over, we're still missing over 10 years' worth of records if, in fact, he's had this off-the-books account for since he was elected. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and we've asked for those records.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And really, those records should be with the finance department. They shouldn't be somewhere else. At his November 12th press conference, he responded to a question from a reporter that he had all the records, had the account since he became sheriff. So why is it important? Some folks have said, well, it's just a vending machine, but it's more than one vending machine. A sheriff doesn't have authority to open up a bank account. He doesn't have authority to expend money that's out of the budget process. And you can Google it. The North Carolina Sheriff's Association puts out a finance manual. It's on page 8. Talks about vending machines. Talks about, how that is handled and how it's part of the general fund. That money that's collected belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to any department head. Doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the people, just like building permit fees, just like fees associated with inspections, fees for public health, recording fees in the Register of Deeds, and property taxes. It all goes into the general fund. So there's not an allowance for any of those other departments to take money and put it somewhere else that's not part of the budget process. That money should be available to fund things like you're talking about. Now, he's handed over some records, and they went through some boxes. Don't know exactly who they were, but he did do a memo. Some of those receipts don't match the bank statements. There's not copies of some of the checks that he did hand over as far as the bank statements, the checks that cleared the account. Some of the receipts don't match what went through the bank account. Some of the receipts, one had a tip that was left that was more than 28% of the bill. It's pretty substantial. Had alcohol purchase. 7 years later, they're trying to explain why that was, or that, no, we wouldn't have paid for that. Don't know. It's certainly something that wasn't audited because didn't know about it. We're getting write-ups explaining these things so many years later. That's why it's important for transparency purposes that these things be part of the process, part of the budget process. And then that allows us to fund the things that we want to fund and that we can fund. We've got money that was spent that was for, I mean, it's labeled on the statement, gift card Sam Page. It's over $200. There's meals, flowers, donations, ads. We don't know what the ads were. Don't know whose name was on it. That's why we ask these questions. So it's not just, hey, it's a vending machine. It's the people's money. Our job is to ask the questions. We don't know exactly what went through the account. We do know that we've got, I believe what finance was initially provided, it was over $10,000, and now we've got more records, and it looks like it's pushing $20,000 of money that we're trying to decipher. So that's all I got. Happy New Year. Look forward to the coming year. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, congratulations to Reidsville football team. We're tickled to have such a fine institution here in the county. They do a great job. Tonight, I'd like to recognize Philip Butler, our vice chair for the school board. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to recognize Jason Wood, city council member, City of Eden. Also notable, we'd like to recognize the superintendent of schools, Dr. Stover. Thank you for being here. And the other notable, of course, we've met Kathy Powers, she's here, and Carla Huffman, the director of the City of Eden Garden Center. Thank you, guys. And Dawn, we see you out there as well, Dawn Sharaba. But thank you, everyone, for your interest in the community. It was some very interesting information tonight. And Ms. Drews, thank you for that powerful testimony. We appreciate it. Happy New Year, everyone. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. I would like to take a minute to also thank everybody for being here tonight from the board. We appreciate you guys showing up in such force. It's good to see people that are so involved with our elderly community and take time to come out here tonight. So thank you all for being here this evening. I have a little more somber news. Since we met last, we lost a member of our public health team. Mr. Olaf Messenberg was a physician's extender for us here in public health. He was beloved by our staff and by everybody here, and he's not the kind of guy that will be easily replaced. So we would like to continue to extend our prayers and condolences to his family and to his friends here at the county. I, too, would also like to congratulate Reidsville High School football on another state championship. I know it's something that we almost take for granted with Reidsville High School football, but it is a great accomplishment every time they do it. So congratulations to the coach and to the team. I, again, would like to continue my appeal. At this moment, we still have over 170 children in foster care, and we are in desperate need of foster parents. So if you know anyone that would be interested, you don't even have to be a foster parent. You guys mentioned respite care earlier. Respite care for foster parents goes a long way, just like it does with the Asian population that you were describing. So if you're willing to consider that, you can contact us here. We have our MAPS training ongoing so people can get trained to become foster parents. And if it doesn't fit your lifestyle, if you'd please just help spread the word about this issue in your churches, in your community groups. We are in desperate need. We don't want to have to send children out of this county and out of the state. So please, if you're interested or know anyone that is, tell them to contact us here at the county. With that, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, January 20th, due to the observance of Martin Luther King Day. Do we have a motion to adjourn, gentlemen?
Move.
Motion by Commissioner Hall.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.